Hi there guys, another video on the Crown today. Last video we did the trigger sear. Today we're going to be polishing the hammer and the hammer spring. We'll also be changing the geometry of the hammer a little. Again, like I said in the previous video, this isn't a how-to, this is just a what I'm doing. So you do what you want with your own rifle. This is just what I do to mine. So first of all, we're going to remove the hammer. I explained it last time, so I'll just remove it quickly this time. Okay, so this is the hammer spring assembly. This is the hammer, this is the hammer spring, and this is the hammer spring shuffle. This is a sub 12 rifle, so it has the sub 12 hammer spring. The FAC, or International Hammer Spring, is a bit more heavy duty and is a stiffer spring. This one is fairly soft in comparison. So in this video we're going to be polishing up the hammer. I'm also going to be changing the geometry of this section of the hammer a little to make it cock more smoothly. We'll be polishing the ends of the springs. Okay, so first of all, polishing the hammer. When I say polishing the hammer, I mean polishing these two surfaces here. This section, the rear of the trigger sear rides against, so it needs to be nice, flat, smooth, so that there is as little friction as possible when these two surfaces ride up against each other. This ridge here is simply a ramp for the trigger sear to ride up. I changed these slightly, so this ramp here is a much shallower angle. What this does is it means that the trigger sear rides up more easily onto this section. I don't touch the back, as the back is what the trigger sear latches on. This section can be polished, however it's just aesthetic, as none of these surfaces ride on anything or come in contact with anything. Once the hammer is polished, we'll move on to the hammer spring, which will be polishing these ends here. These, I don't know how well the camera will focus on this, but these are just rough ground and are quite rough to the touch. What we do, polish the ends, make them nice and smooth, so that as the spring compresses, it can move nice and freely and doesn't get bound or twisted. And we want the spring to be able to rotate and do what it wants to do. Okay, I'll bring you back when we get the hammer polished up. So here it is set in the lathe. See it there? Focus. There it goes. Right, so what I'll be doing, you see the tool there, I'll be winding it in and just taking this corner off. So it ends up with a nice shallow slope. I won't turn the lathe on video, it's quite noisy, so I'll get that done, then I'll bring you back when we're polishing it. Right, that's the ramp put on it. What I ended up doing is setting the top slide to around 16 degrees and just taking very light cuts across the face of the hammer to bring the ramp up. The only thing you've got to be careful of is in this valley here that you don't end up going too far and putting a little divot in it. Okay, so we're back from the lathe now. We've given everything a nice polish up. We've polished the spring, polished the hammer. I'll just give you a close up there. See there. Looks like there's marks in it on the camera, but they're not. It's just a reflection and fingerprints that's left on there. I haven't bothered polishing this section. It doesn't really run anything. But this end here, I've just given a quick polish so it's nice and flat. There was a slight divot in it from where the hammer hits the valve, so I've just polished that out. Here it is there. I haven't touched this yet. But the spring, also the ends of the spring, nice and smooth, give the outside and inside of the spring a quick polish as well. Makes it look nicer, and inside the spring, when we make the spring guides, it'll make it smoother. So there it is there. While we've got the hammer here, I just want to mention that because we turned off some material here, it says lighten the hammer very, very slightly, but to compensate for this we will need to add some extra hammer spring tension on with the adjuster. But that's not a problem to us. So I'll get all this cleaned up, get all the residue from in there, you can see, get it all clean, and we'll reassemble the rifle. So, what does it cock like? Well, it's a hard thing to show you on film, but when you're here you can definitely feel the difference. It's nice and smooth, there's no sticking points, it just comes back very nicely. Trigger breaks nicely now. It does need a bit of an adjustment. The second stage is very, very light. So I'll be adjusting that probably in the final episode of this. I've got to make some spring guides next, so that'll be the next video. After that we'll adjust the trigger, sort out the hammer spring setting, and she should be good to go. Alright then guys, thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.